Recording in progress.
Welcome in to the latest episode of the Ben and the Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, _G Warner, across all social media platforms, including patreon.com. Feel my plays across all sports. We are 15-8-2, 65% so far on the ultimate best bets, the end of show best bet I smashed together from the leagues I cover. Tonight's episode, we will be going through the English Premier League and Italian Serie A, as they are the only two leagues finishing up their season in the calendar year 2025. Spanish La Liga is coming back pretty quickly in 2026. Also, England and Italy will be back, and then we'll be going through other leagues as well, like France and Germany, but they have a little while. Come on, come over here. Come on. And I got my co-host right here, my partner today. His name is Fig. He doesn't want to be on camera, apparently. He wants to just bite my hand off. But we're going to start in England on this matchup. Now here he is. You see, dogs do exist. Oh, thank you. He really likes eyeballs, too, unfortunately, for anyone involved on this here podcast. So thank you. Yes, I am at your level. I shouldn't be sitting on the floor, but I am. Anyway, I got a new partner on tonight's episode, and we're going to start where the money is, and that's in England. Look at how well-behaved this guy is. Yes, I know. So we're going to start with Nottingham Forest and Manchester City. This matchup is in the City Ground in wherever the hell Nottingham is. Right now, Forest is a 1-goal underdog. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and it's juiced all the way to over. So Manchester City have certainly been turning around their season after a really rough start, or rough, really end of 2025, all of last season. Have been better this year, climbing their way up the table, fighting for the Premier League title, especially now Liverpool have fallen so far off, but Arsenal are way ahead, and that's a big problem for Man City. But Arsenal are falling under their normal injury rotation, and then we'll see how much they can survive with all this. I guess we're just going to have him on this episode the whole time. Forest, on the other hand, they basically sacked their manager because he didn't get along with one of the higher-ups, though that's usually the owner of the team. This time it was not. And new guys come in, more conservative than the last somehow. And Sean Dyche has been getting some results, which I expect to continue. I think it's 1-goal underdog. I'm not as interested in playing unders with Man City this year because they can score goals. Erling Haaland's been super hot, probably the best property to have in FPL if you're an FPL player. And then Phil Foden has also been awesome lately too. So that's scary, but a full goal of insurance on the early matchup for the English Premier League. I guess they did have a Boxing Day match, as they always do, but usually it's the entire day is full. But I guess because it was a Friday today, they went a little bit differently. But Forest for me is the biggest interest I have in that early matchup. I could be, I guess, convinced into some sort of under leans possibly. I just don't know that I really want to play that because, unfortunately, if you're wrong on Manchester City's offense scoring a bunch of goals, not only are they going to cover the spread, they're also going to beat your total. So I'll play a low-scoring game, hoping that Nottingham Forest, if they do score some goals, that maybe if they hit over, they can still cover. But I think that's probably the limit of where I'm going. In terms of movement on this one, since I've been tracking that, I might as well say it. Pretty much all I've really seen so far is Nottingham Forest as a 1-goal underdog, but that has been getting bet on the Manchester City side. Maybe we see a 1 1/4 before this kicks off, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, 6:30 God's time in Texas, though I'm not currently recording from there. And total has dropped from 3 to 2 3/4, so that might mean a little bit more. Move next to Brentford and Bournemouth. Currently Brentford, a 1/4 goal favorite at home, almost all the juice on Bournemouth away from home. Total this one is 2 3/4, as I get hairs out of my mouth unintentionally, and total this one is 2 3/4, juice pretty heavily to over. So a lot of the juice on Bournemouth, a lot of the juice on over. Haven't really seen much of movement here. Surprise isn't the biggest bet game on the site. All lines quoted courtesy of BetOnline, former sponsors of this podcast, not currently. Would love them back, but ultimately I've supported this podcast before, and great spot. And 16-cent juice in the Premier League is better you're going to find anywhere else. If you don't have an account there, please hit me up at @G Warner across any social media platform that you are listening to this, or if you want to find me on Twitter, that's probably the best spot. In terms of where I'm going with this matchup, Brentford have been really good at home. They've taken a ton of scalps of really big clubs all across the Premier League. Bournemouth really have struggled after a great start to the season. Were awesome last year. Have been a real moneymaker for @G Warner and his Patreon club. But at this point, I don't know that there's enough here. Unfortunately, it seems like Antoine Semenyo show is all that really exists. Don't know why he's not at AFCON, to be frank, but at this point, I'll lean to the quarter of a goal. Brentford's have high scoring matches, even though they seem to score from set pieces every matchup. That doesn't feel like a great way to win a match. So I guess if I got to pick something on this one, I'll lean to Bournemouth getting a quarter of a goal away from home. But they don't seem to be the same defense they used to be. I guess the low scoring games are a lot of times, I think, because as favorites, they don't score much. So don't know that I'm in a great spot without an Euro right now, though forever and should almost have a tattoo of him at this point, or at least a jersey, a kit from when he played Athletic Club in Spain. We'll move next to West Ham United and Fulham. In this matchup, we have West Ham, a pick'em right now. Literally every cent except for one of juice is on the road team Fulham here. Total's 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to over in terms of where money has moved in this one. So we've seen Fulham get bet a little bit, and the totals drop from 2.75 to 2.5. So that's important, especially if you're playing under, because if it lands 3 goals here, you certainly want to win or lose half of your bet on that 2.75. So I'll be waiting to see if that one comes back. West Ham to me are still one of the most conservative coached teams. Former Nottingham Forest coach, somehow they got more conservative, but he moved on to West Ham, and Nuno Espirito Santo is just not going to ever attack, which makes a pick'em pretty expensive for any team that's not going to attack. But this one's also looking like it's trending toward West Ham United becoming a quarter goal underdog. That's certainly a number I'm waiting for. I don't know if the pick'em is enough for me right now to say I'd play it. Certainly want to look at lineups and see how that all looks and lean that way in that direction for sure. Also lean under 2.5 because I like what Marco Silva has done for Fulham. They just haven't gotten a lot of great results so far this season, and I think that's something that we need to take notice of at this point in the year, especially as a road favorite, which I think is probably enough of a price for me to want to bet the other side. We'll move next to Arsenal hosting Brighton. Of course, Arsenal should always get bet, seem to always get bet. Let's see what I've been tracking here. We've seen a goal and a quarter this whole time, but it's become very, very juiced on the Arsenal side. It started that way, but it's only increased. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 1.5 before kickoff, 10 a.m. Eastern time, United States. Total in this one is currently 2.75 juiced all the way to over. We've seen the total fall from, from 2.75. Well, it hasn't really fallen. It stayed the same. Had a couple cents of juice added to odds added to the Brighton side, and Arsenal has gotten more expensive. Every match they play, they dominate. Most of their goals come from set pieces. It doesn't seem that defenders being out really matters to them because no one really shoots against them ever. Brighton, I'm sure, will be forward-thinking, front-footed, and that's certainly scary. You don't want to give any sort of openings to Arsenal. But I also think at this point, maybe Fabian Hutzler is going to try to do what everyone else does and try to keep us as low-scoring as possible, get a counterattack, and somehow shock the world, shock Arsenal all in the same little punch. I don't see a lot of goals here. I think Brighton away from home, I haven't really trusted them to score goals in a while. It seems like the Danny Welbeck show, and that's about it. I think under 2.75 is very interesting, and I think we'll see 3 before kickoff, and that's certainly a key number and one that I'll be waiting for or ultimately paying up for juice-wise to get that push on 3 if it lands there, though I don't expect it to. I think an Arsenal 2-0, 1-0 win sounds very, very likely, and then you're potentially winning both side and total if you play the road underdog, but I think I'd be more comfortable in just the total. Move next to Burnley hosting Everton. Currently Burnley half of a goal underdog right now with all the juice. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's used pretty heavily to over. Now, where has this number moved? So currently Burnley at that half of a goal underdog. They were always that way, but they've gotten a little bit more expensive. So we'll see if that number kind of sticks around. In terms of total, we've seen some over money come in. Not really a surprise, but not a huge amount, just 5 cents in juice, which certainly does indicate that we might see this number climb, which it's a tiny total in the Premier League at 2.25. But at this point, it should be based on these two teams. Burnley can't score goals. Everton is going to go on the road and not entertain is something you've seen probably on every podcast I've done. If you're following the Bet in the Pitch podcast, leaving 5-star reviews and Apple Podcasts on the Spotify, it's huge for the search rankings, and we really appreciate that. All the new subscribers on YouTube at @TheReal_G Warner have been great. Plus the lots of views on the reels too. That's been really climbing up, and I don't know what I've done to change anything, but maybe it's just momentum. works in dating, works in sports, I guess. So awesome. Thank you for all your support in that measure. But ultimately, I just don't see goals coming from Burnley. They're the home underdog. They should have a huge crowd behind them. Everton are going to go to defend. That's what they do. So under 2.25 looks very interesting to me in that matchup. To the last of the Saturday onslaught in that early 10 a.m. Eastern time window, we have Liverpool, a 1.75 goal favorite at home to Wolves. More juice on the Wolves side. Totals 3, juiced all the way to over. So who's backing Wolves at this point, even with how bad Liverpool have played? Nobody. It's a little bit bigger than the number I made, and I tried to make it as big as I could. We saw this total at 3.25 fall to 3. It's probably going to jostle between those two numbers. Obviously, I think most sportsbooks don't want a 3 out there because they don't want the push. So I wouldn't be surprised if 3.25 comes back, which I think Wolves will have to contribute to. I just don't see Liverpool scoring 4 goals. The question is, can Liverpool keep a clean sheet? And that's another big question as well. With wildcard coming up in FPL, I went pretty heavily on the Liverpool defense. Grabbed Kirkez. We'll see if he even starts. And I think I grabbed Virgil van Dijk as well, who I never, ever want, but because he's expensive. But I do think that there's some value on potentially finding a clean sheet in this matchup. And with a 3-goal total in your pocket, I just don't think Liverpool are good enough to score that many. Wolves have been bad, but really it's because they can't score goals. Their defense has been not great. Goalkeeper's been making mistakes from time to time, but that'll happen when you're bottom of the league and facing them as much pressure as they are. I just think at this point for me, I don't expect Liverpool to dominate games, to win by lopsided margins. And usually if you need to get 4 goals in a matchup to kill a total, I'm not going to really believe that'll happen. But I'll certainly be waiting to see 3.25 pop because I would love to win when it lands 3. To the nightcap on Saturday, Chelsea hosts Aston Villa. Currently, Chelsea 3/4 goal favorites. All the juice on the Villa side. Total in this one is 2.75, and it's juiced very heavily to over as we speak. Chelsea, we can argue that they've been playing up or down to their competition all season. Current market has moved them from a half a goal favorite, very juiced, to a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice on Aston Villa. Total has been climbing from 2.75 toward 3. Been giving some odds on the under. That's been bet back. Looks like it's might even hang 2.75, but I expect it probably will climb towards 3 tomorrow on game day, match day, as they call it in England. I think Aston Villa's defense has been great, and that's been their calling card under Unai Emery. They had an awful start to the Premier League season, kind of turned it around in the Europa League, and then things have gotten better since then. Hottest team in the English Premier League entering in, or maybe in all of England, entering into December. I think Villa is the side I want here. I know they're going to give Chelsea a good game. Chelsea, I just have no idea what they're ever going to do. And that makes them pretty tough to bet against, but really tough to back. And especially as a favorite, needs to win by multiple goals here to take my full unit. So Villa, 3/4 goal underdog, I like that. And I'll lean to the under 2.75, though certainly waiting for a +1, which doesn't look likely, and a 3, which looks more likely, but we'll see what happens with some movement on Saturday. We have 2 matches to go on Sunday. We have Sunderland hosting Leeds. Currently, Sunderland, a pick'em, 4 cents more juice on the home team, a battle of promoted sides. And this number has moved from Leeds with getting odds. So there's been some money coming in the Leeds side. I'm surprised because they're really just a home team to me. I wouldn't want much to do with them away, but ultimately the market's been against Sunderland all season, and we've been making money hand over fist at the _G Warner on Patreon. So that's been awesome. Looking to keep that going as long as possible, of course. I think it's pretty simple. Sunderland at home, in front of a raucous crowd. They're not going anywhere. And this is one of those matches where there's no jeopardy. They just need to win. I'll also lean to under 2.25. I just don't think Leeds are going to go in and score many goals. So home team and under. And let's see Leeds crack that nut. Last but not least, we'll go to Crystal Palace hosting Tottenham. Currently Palace, 1/4 goal favorites. A little bit more juice on this one. Total in this one is also 2.5, and it is juiced pretty heavily to under. So Tottenham have been playing inexplicably conservative football. That's, I guess, what their manager came up doing, will continue to do. I don't like them as a small road underdog here. Would love to get Crystal Palace at pick'em. Would pay up a juice for that probably, just so that if it does end in a draw, we push. I think under 2.5 goals is a little bit less than I made it, and probably makes sense based on just a doubt in Tottenham and how they're going to play football. I just don't think they're going to attack much, and that works for them probably better as an underdog away from home. But at this point, they spend so much money in their club that it's hilarious how inept that whole management, everything it's been, and they've literally even had their main guy move on. So it's hilarious to me at this point. Lean to under 2.5. And for my ultimate best bet from England, before we get to Spain, or excuse me, before we get to Italy, let's go with that Burnley under 2.25 goals. We'll certainly be holding out for a 2.5 to pop, but even if it doesn't, I'm not so concerned about that. Okay, let's check our audio, make sure everyone is on board. We're hearing everything. No complaints about audio issues. So we'll move on to Italia. So we'll move to Italy. We'll start in an early matchup, 6:30 Eastern time, 5:30 Central time. Parma hosting Fiorentina. And actually, Parma's been not getting bet. Fiorentina's been getting backed. I thought we were going to lose a quarter of a goal underdog on Parma. It looks like we're about to sort of even odds on that one, minus 111 to minus 109. Total in this one is 2.25, and it juice split also in this one. So not a lot of, I guess, belief on what I was expecting. We've seen the total pretty much vacillate, go in both the directions, but there's definitely been some money coming in on Fiorentina, and I don't really see why that would occur. I mean, they have an incredibly awful start to their season, so I guess can't get much worse. Parma can't really score goals, so that's also helpful. I don't believe that Parma should be this big of an underdog at home, where a goalless draw at that is a winner on both sides. And I think I really like both of those angles. Move next to Torino, who's in Cagliari. Currently Torino, a half a goal favorite. Almost all the juice on the Cagliari side, the visitor. Total is 2.25, juice pretty heavily to under right now. That reflects, I think, how I see this match going. Torino have not scored goals for 5 seasons now. Certainly not this one. New management, I'm not really sure much has really changed. Players haven't really changed. I'm not really sure they've had a ton of money to invest. Cagliari are not a great offense, and they certainly are. They look a little cheap as only half a goal underdog away from home, but they're going to defend. I just don't trust Torino to score goals. Certainly like under, we'll be thinking more closely about the underdog. We'll move next to Lecce hosting Como. Lecce have been in the league, I think, far longer than anyone was expected. They're 3/4 goal underdogs to a relatively newly promoted side in their second year in the league. Total is 2.25 in this one, and we've seen a little bit of movement towards over. We've seen Lecce climb from half a goal underdog getting odds to now a 3/4 goal underdog with a lot of juice, and it probably should be that way. I just don't see goals coming in this matchup. Como have been supposed to kind of set the standard and be the aggressor in all their matches. It just hasn't really been happening. And so Lecce, 3/4 underdog, sign me up. Also like the under 2.25. We'll move next to Udinese hosting Lazio. Very expensive Udine quarter goal underdog right now, which I imagine just pick them throughout the rest of the marketplace, but would be a value if you're expecting Udinese to potentially draw at home. Total in this one with Lazio on the road is 2.25, juice very heavily to under right now. Could see this fall to 2. I just don't think we see that happen because still feels like a really low total in Italian matches, though we've seen so many days with so few goals scored. I don't really believe that Lazio are as bad as the market has thought they were, but I do think a road favorite is a pretty expensive price for them, especially how they've been treated all season. So I'm interested in the home underdog getting a quarter of a goal, lean to under 2.25 as well. I feel less good about Udinese unders at this point after watching them for years, but I think I like the home underdog more in that matchup. To the nightcap on Saturday of Pisa hosting Juventus. Currently Pisa, a 1-goal underdog. All the juice on the Juventus side. Total is 2.5, and it shoots very heavily to under. Pisa have not been able to score goals, but with a full goal of insurance, they are in a great position to take a home match, get a result potentially, maybe without scoring, but it's probably unlikely to expect a complete goalless draw here. With that said, Juve changed managers. Things have been better under Spalletti, but I'm not sure they're still great. I expect the Juve defense to be good, which probably means that under is a more interesting play than backing Pisa. Just I'm not sure they can score, but I do like the +1, like it more when it climbs to 1.25, which I expect it will. And that's probably I'm interested in playing both of those at this point and potentially speculating against a Juventus offensive masterclass. Moving to Sunday, we'll start with AC Milan hosting Verona. Currently Milan, a 1.25 goal favorite with more of the juice. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced all the way to over. Verona have just not shown they can score goals at all this season, many seasons in the past. With that said, I think Milan are going to be one of those sides that win 1-0 matches for a long time. That's what Massimiliano Allegri, their manager, wants to do. We'll see when that ends up happening. But at this point, Allegri ball is coming. And if it hasn't happened yet, I'm still betting it will. Moving next to Cremonese, hosting Napoli. Currently, Cremonese, a 1-goal underdog. All the juice on that home team. Total in this one is 2.25, and it's juiced all the way to over. So not a lot of movement there either. I think at this point, there's still a lot of interest for me in Cremonese. They've played very competitive football so far since returning to Serie A, top division in Italy. I'm not necessarily sure that I am as afraid of Napoli as I was. I don't know that I really was last season, even though they won the Scudetto, but they have not been able to score goals, and I don't really expect them to. Move next to Bologna, hosting Sassuolo. Currently, Bologna, a 3-quarter goal favorite, almost all the juice on the Sassuolo side. Total in this one is 2.5, and she's very heavily to under. And now here's the question: is that Bologna balancing playing 2 extra matches in Saudi Arabia while Sassuolo was playing 1 in Serie A, how that does to their legs and what that does to their talent and ability. I think Bologna have been great with how their depth has been awesome. I do think that Sassuolo are about the right price right now. There does seem to be some money coming in on Bologna. I think at +1, I'm interested in adding Sassuolo. Probably look to under there as well. But until I have that, I'm probably satisfied with letting this one go, as I don't really want to fade a really good Bologna team who I backed all over Saudi Arabia last week. Move 2 matches left to go, and we'll lead to ultimate best bet. Atalanta, half a goal underdog at home to Inter Milan. Total in this one is 2.75, and it's juiced more to the under. I'm on record for years and years of saying that Inter Milan are by far the best club in Italy, and I stick to that. Seeing money come in on Inter, moving them from a quarter goal underdog to a half of a goal underdog after not making the Supercoppa Italiana final was a surprise, but ultimately I think was a tough thing to argue and one off on another continent. Good luck on a money grab, seeing the interest, and because Inter have played so well in Champions League, we're one of the last perfect teams, if not for absolutely getting completely screwed at Atletico Madrid. But that I'll leave to the side, I guess. Atalanta, they were not good, got the wrong manager in to replace Gasparini. Things have improved. If they got another, should have been hired or should have been retained at Fiorentina manager. And I like what Atalanta have been doing. I think every Inter match, I expect them to control, and that would be a low scoring matchup. 2.75 is a really big total, I think, for this matchup, which I think will be very low scoring. And for that reason, I think it makes that half of a goal move from a quarter to a half on Atalanta even that much more valuable. So lean to home underdog and certainly to under 2.75. So we'll move to Monday, and then we'll get an ultimate best bet and get out of here. Roma, 3-quarter goal favorites at home to Genoa with a return of Daniele De Rossi, who had been only in charge of Roma for, I think, 4 matches before their president, some woman, had to step down after everyone called for her head after horrible mismanagement of that situation. Hilarious. In terms of the movement on this number, we've seen not a lot so far. Total's been the same, and the side has not moved either. So Genoa, I think until I get a full goal of insurance, I don't want to play them. Don't really trust them to score goals either. Roma with a total of 2 is tiny. Total is so much smaller than I made it. So there's probably not a lot for me in this matchup at all. But thanks for sticking around for the last matchup in Serie A, as Monday we'll figure out something to play, I guess, before we get the kickoff. In terms of the ultimate best bet, which I will marry and pick one against the Premier League, which there's a lot to like, I think, on this card. And ultimately for me, I think the Lecce Como, I don't see a lot of goals in that matchup, I got to say. And Lecce's home underdog, I think, will ride a pretty big crowd at home. So under 2.25 in that one is my biggest interest. But for the ultimate best bet, we are we're 15, 8, and 2. I don't know where the 12 came from. 15, 8, and 2, 65% so far year to date. And those that I've caught up on, I'm in December, so we're catching up, getting there. But for my best bet, will come in just 1 second. If you're not a member of the Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner, best spot for all my plays across all sports, including a really hot run after a really poor start to the NFL season. Didn't like the start we got off to, but it's been really hot lately. 4-0-1 last weekend. I'm going to try to keep that going in week 17. Also have college basketball coming out, podcast with Big East Ben. We're probably not doing, we didn't do one today because the schedule's so weak this weekend, but we'll be making one up next week. College football podcast out there with XXLanteXX on Twitter as well. Also want to mention that I will be doing my own show coming out on pregame.com starting the new year. More details to come on that. Hopefully some more PR and things like that coming up as well. It'll be still workshopping a few things, but expect to hear about everything I'm looking at for the next day. Leans, plays, what I'm going to throw out there every night, and you'll be finding it on the pregame.com feed. You've always been subscribed to the Straight Out of Vegas or the RJ Bells, depending on which way they want to do it. Other than that, I think just check me out all across social media, trying to get as much content out there as possible, and tell me what you like. Feel free to leave some reviews. Likes always are really much appreciated, but 5-star reviews are huge on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify under the Betting Pitch podcast name. So for the ultimate best bet from England, I went Burnley under 2.25 goals, and I went Lecce under 2.25 in Serie A in Italy on this brief episode that we somehow made it still 26 minutes. For ultimate best bet, we are 15-8-2, 65% year to date. Let's go with Burnley under 2.25 goals at home to Everton.
Recording stopped.